Every 88 seconds, a house fire starts in this country. The average family has less than 3 minutes to get out alive. That is not a statistic from some fringe blog. That is straight from the National Fire Protection Association's own data. The fire safety industry wants you to believe the only thing standing between your family and a body bag is their $1,200 suppression system bolted to your ceiling. That is a lie. There is a liquid you can mix in your kitchen in under 10 minutes. 2 white powders, hot water. Total cost, $3 a gallon. It penetrates wood fibers a full ½ inch deep in a single coat. It raises the ignition threshold of raw lumber from 500 degrees Fahrenheit to over 750 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the difference between a wall that catches in 90 seconds and a wall that holds long enough for every person in the house to walk out breathing. U.S. Forest Service smoke jumpers knew about this in the 1950s. They carried it in their field kits. They brushed it on remote fire lookout towers from Montana to Oregon. It worked. It kept working. And then it vanished from every manual, every training guide, every public recommendation. Not because it failed, because you cannot build a billion-dollar compliance empire on 2 minerals that cost less than a cup of coffee. What you are about to hear has been deliberately buried by building code lobbyists, chemical manufacturers, and the federal boards they finance. If you are not subscribed, do it now and hit that bell. This is where we crack open the vaults they welded shut. In the winter of 1847, a man named Silas Comstock built a 2-room cabin in the ridgeline hollows of eastern Kentucky. Appalachian country. No fire department within 40 miles. Comstock was a former Army Corps surveyor who had watched 3 neighboring homesteads burn to bare foundation stones in a single dry October. He started experimenting. He boiled mule team borax in creek water and soaked his cabin logs with the solution using a horsehair brush. His neighbors called him touched. The following August, a brush fire swept through the hollow. It took 2 barns, a smokehouse, and the Dawson family cabin 200 yards south. Comstock's cabin stood. The logs were scorched black on the windward side, but the flames never penetrated. He wrote about it in a letter to his brother in Richmond dated September 1848. That letter survived in a private estate collection for over a century. Comstock was not a chemist. He was a man who paid attention to what the Cherokee already knew. The Cherokee and several southeastern nations had long treated ceremonial lodgepoles with mineral slurries drawn from borax-bearing clay deposits in the southern Appalachians. The poles resisted fire season after season. This was not magic. It was applied chemistry 1,000 years before anyone called it that. By the 1890s, railroad companies in the Ohio Valley were soaking wooden trestle bridges with borax solutions to prevent catastrophic fire losses. An internal report from the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad in 1903 documented a 74% reduction in fire damage on treated timber sections versus untreated. That report was filed and forgotten. During World War II, the Army Quartermaster Corps issued a field manual supplement that included boric acid treatment for temporary wooden barracks and ammunition storage structures at forward bases. The formula was simple. The results were documented. After the war, it quietly disappeared from updated manuals. Then came the 1950s smoke jumpers. The U.S. Forest Service maintained over 5,000 fire lookout towers across the western states. Many were wooden structures in the most fire-prone terrain on Earth. Field crews applied boric acid solutions to these towers as standard maintenance. Internal field reports from the Missoula smoke jumper base referenced the treatment as highly effective and cost negligible. By 1962, those references were gone, replaced by mandated commercial fire retardant products sold by 3 chemical companies with active lobbying offices in Washington. That is not a theory. That is a procurement paper trail. If you are still watching this, you are already more awake than 98% of homeowners in this country. Most people will spend $15,000 on fire safety products over the life of a mortgage and never once question whether a $3 solution could have done the same job. This video is just the surface. I have assembled everything the home safety industry does not want you to find. All of it inside the complete off-grid vault. Link in the description below. Exposed fire protection methods that outperform certified systems at a fraction of the cost. moisture control techniques that cost pennies and last decades, wood preservation secrets that go back to frontier America that the lumber treatment industry deliberately erased, thermal insulation hacks using materials the building code boards classified as non-compliant to protect their own supplier contracts. Over a dozen complete uncensored guides in one place, no filler. The link is in the description or scan the code on your screen right now. But stay with me. The science is about to make you angry. Here is what happens at the molecular level. Borax is sodium tetraborate. Boric acid is hydrogen borate. When dissolved together in hot water, they form a sodium borate buffer solution. When you apply this to wood and it dries, the borates crystallize inside the cellular structure of the wood fibers. These crystals do two things. First, they release water molecules when exposed to heat. That water absorption steals energy directly from the fire. Second, the borate residue forms a char layer on the wood surface that acts as an oxygen barrier. Fire needs three things: heat, fuel, and oxygen. The borates attack two of those three simultaneously. Raw pine ignites at roughly 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Borate-treated pine resists sustained flame contact above 750 degrees Fahrenheit. That is not a marginal improvement. That is a 50% increase in ignition threshold from a substance that costs less than a bag of chips. The NFPA documented boron-based fire retardants as effective for residential wood structures as early as 1952. University fire science labs in the US, Germany, and New Zealand have independently confirmed that borax treatment delays ignition by a factor of 3 to 5 compared to untreated wood. One study measured penetration depth at nearly half an inch from a single application. Commercial certified fire retardant coatings sit on the surface. They do not penetrate, and they cost between $40 and $120 per gallon. You are paying 40 times more for a product that does less. Now here is why this was buried. You cannot patent borax. It is a naturally occurring mineral mined from evaporite deposits in California and Turkey. It has existed for millions of years. You cannot patent boric acid. It is derived from borax through a simple chemical process known for over 2 centuries. You cannot build a subscription model around 2 minerals anyone can buy at a hardware store for pocket change. You cannot charge for annual compliance inspections on a treatment any homeowner can apply with a pump sprayer in an afternoon. You cannot generate recurring revenue from a one-time $3 application that lasts 10 to 15 years. So the system did what it always does. It built a wall of mandatory certifications, proprietary standards, and licensed-only application requirements. It made sure the only products that meet code are the ones sold by the companies that wrote the code. The fire safety compliance industry in the United States generates over $12 billion a year. 3 chemical conglomerates control the majority of certified fire retardant sales. Their lobbyists sit on the advisory boards that draft building codes. That is not a conspiracy. That is a business model. And you fund it every time you open a contractor's invoice.
Here is exactly what you do tonight. Go to any hardware store or order online.
Buy sodium tetraborate decahydrate. That is borax. A 76-ounce box costs about $5. Buy boric acid powder. An 8-ounce container runs about $4 at any pharmacy or online. Boil 1 gallon of water in a large stainless steel pot. Measure out 6 ounces of borax by weight. Pour it into the hot water and stir until fully dissolved. Add 3 ounces of boric acid powder. Stir until the solution is completely clear. Let it cool to warm. Transfer it into a standard garden pump sprayer. Apply to clean, dry, bare wood at room temperature around 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Spray evenly until the surface is saturated but not dripping. Let it absorb for 4 hours. Apply a second coat. Wait 24 hours before painting, staining, or sealing over the treated surface. The treatment is odorless once dry. It does not change the color or texture of the wood. Total cost to treat roughly 100 square feet of surface area is under $4. A professional certified fire retardant treatment for the same area runs between $800 and $1,500 depending on your region. You are paying 200 times more for a result that independent testing shows is no better and often worse. I will be straight with you on one thing. This does not replace smoke detectors. Every room in your house needs a working detector tested monthly. What this treatment does is slow the fire. It buys you time. In a house fire, time is the only currency that matters. 3 to 7 extra minutes before flashover. That is the difference between a family that walks out and a family that does not. In 1987, a retired Forest Service lookout keeper in Bend, Oregon, had treated his cedar-sided home with this exact solution 8 years earlier. An electrical fire started in the attached workshop during a January ice storm. The treated exterior walls held for over 30 minutes before the volunteer crew arrived. The neighbor's untreated garage 100 feet away burned to the slab in under 10 minutes. His family walked out in pajamas. No injuries. That is not luck. That is chemistry. The same chemistry that protected Cherokee lodge poles, Appalachian cabins, railroad bridges, army barracks, and Forest Service towers for over a century before the compliance industry decided your safety was less important than their quarterly earnings. You just learned what they spent 70 years burying. This knowledge costs nothing. It cannot be patented. It cannot be licensed. It cannot be recalled. That is exactly why they wanted it gone. And that is exactly why it matters more now than ever. If this changed something for you today, share it with someone whose home deserves the same protection the system has been selling back to you at a 4,000% markup. Everything they buried is inside the complete off-grid vault. The link is in the description below, or scan the code on your screen. Every share is an act of defiance against a system built to keep you dependent and paying. The next vault opens soon. What it contains is heavier,